so much, Ghazal, and thank you everybody for coming here on Monday evening. I'm so happy to be launching this book in this room with these people for the second time, and I'm not used to having a mic like this in my hand except for karaoke, so I'm just going to try to restrain myself. So I'm going to start by reading the long poem that opens Tentatives in its entirety. It's a mirror poem in French and English, and it is and so all the French parts come back again in English in some form or another. So
Ellen, do you want me to hold the mic?
no, it's fine. It's fine. No, I can totally do this. I can multitask. So I'm going to start with Je réfléchis, I reflect. Il est bien plus tard qu'avant, il me semble, où subsistent encore les échos qui hantaient la ligne. Dans le Vercors, les accords se perdent. Je lis parce que c'est la seule chose que je sais faire, que j'essaie de faire. On m'a vu dans le Vercors sauter l'élastique, histoire d'où. En tant que trace, je reste, je subsiste, je demeure, je persiste. En tant que trace, I should have known better. Le vent qui ne nous portera plus laisse penser qu'il nous parle. Ces paroles nous soufflent à l'oreille sans pour autant laisser une seule trace de sens. Qu'est-ce que cela signifie? It seems much later than before. Where do the echoes that haunted the line survive? In the Vercors agreements, chords get lost. I read because it's the only thing I know how to do. Try to do. I was seen in the Vercors, green body, bungee jumping, sweet story of where. As a trace I stay, I survive, I remain, I persist. As a trace j'aurais dû mieux savoir. The wind that will no longer carry us lets us think it's talking to us. Its words whisper in our ear without managing to leave a single trace of meaning. What does that even mean? Une différence est que cet espace n'est pas construit, mais improvisé, l'imprévu déconstruit. Il y a un rythme qui me chape, clé à cette forme abstraite, qui m'enfuit, fuit. C'est peu à dire, à femelle dire, rayé comme une goutte de soleil d'or. Comment ça marche? How does that walk? One difference is that this space is not built, but improvised from the deconstructed, unexpected. There's a rhythm that escapes, key to this abstract shape, ape that flees, ease. It's not much to say, a female say, striped like a drop of golden sun. How does that walk? Comment ça marche? La fragilité du mot fragile même, sa propre friabilité. Je réfléchis, je reflète, comme l'eau, ces phénomènes. The fragility of the word fragile itself, its own friability. I reflect like water, these phenomena. Les appels n'ont plus de distance de nos jours, dit-on, mais dans mon expérience, ce n'est pas le cas. Tes paroles me joignent de l'autre bout du monde, incrustées du résidu sonore d'une distance extrême. Disons que ce soit le cas. Case by case, we review evidence for the prosecution. Both assuming the defense position makes it all but impossible to slide these blocks of grievance through the channels installed to process them craftily. Our case stalls, ground to a halt on its own neat corners. Stalls are for horses, really, not even our cross purposes. Angry tramped on dolphins. It's this kind of nouning that's got us where we are, wherever that is, and really we should stop. Calls no longer have distance nowadays, they say, but in my experience that's not the case. Your words reach me from the other end of the world, encrusted with the sonic residue of extreme distance. Let's say that's the case. Cas par cas, on met en examen les preuves à charge. On prend tous les deux le rôle de poursuivant, ce qui rend vachement impossible l'acte de glisser ces blocs de réclamation à travers les canaux installés pour les transformer en vaches qui rient. Notre cas se cale dans une impasse construite de ses propres points carrés. Les stalles sont pour les chevaux, à vrai dire, même pas nos boîtes de malentendus, malins tendus. Ce genre d'adjectiver nous a mal servi en quoi que ce soit, et il est bien temps qu'on en arrête. Disons que ces chevaux qui naissent de l'homophonie de Stahl et Calais nous permettent. Disons que ces chevaux nous permettent, que ces cheveux émettent extrême flamme, rubis et compagnie, que la fumée résiduelle de cet acte de roussir fait surgir, rougir, colorier en lustre de feu en tout cas, au cas où. Rubber half erased, a concrete case for sleeping with the fishes in, maintaining his hand-holding. Je maintiens que ces heures qui tuent passeront enfin, mais peut-on vraiment dire que le temps passe? Après tout, où passe-t-il? Il en reste du temps quand même, il en reste bien trop. Qu'en fera-t-on et où? Let's say that these horses born of the homophony of stalling permit us. Let's say that these horses permit, that this hair emits extreme flame, ruby and co, that the residual smoke of this act of reddening surges, blushes, colours in a fiery glow in any case, just in case. Comme à moitié effacé, qu'est-ce embêtant dans lequel dormir avec les poissons? Maintenir veut dire se tenir la main. I maintain that these hours that kill will pass at last, but can we really say that time passes? After all, where does it pass on to? There's some time left all the same, there's always too much left. What to do with it and where? Old hands on jump, all the years of no one heard, immunity from prosecution. Ces autres sont des tisanes proprement dit, liberté, égalité et compagnie. J'ai du mal à prononcer la troisième partie, frangin masculin de l'éternité ou café, mais que pour les mecs quoi, pas moi. Une bonne cuillerée de merde dans la soupe composée de langues superposées et autres. Utterly bereft, lying and lying in the rift between mendacious layers, saying dollop and whatnot. Se tenir la main et sauter. Toutes ces années et personne n'a entendu, détendu, défendu de poursuite. Those other teas are herbal remedies, rightly told. Liberty, equality and co. I have trouble pronouncing the third part. Masculine sibling of eternity, or coffee, but just for the lads, you know, not me. A good dog of shit in the soup made up of overlapping languages and whatnot. Véritablement démuni, couché montant dans la fosse entre couches menteuses, à se dire cuiré ou quoi que ce soit. Okay. So the next part I'm going to read is from the middle section, whose name escapes me, so I'm going to check what I called it when I wrote it. A Cloud of Eyes. So I'm going to read some prose poems now from A Cloud of Eyes, and the prose poems are all in English. Pacing in the garden in a circle after yoga, the wind makes a sea soundscape through the leaves of the trees and bushes. The tall beeches, perpetually in danger of tangling the electric wires, susurrate like series of small waves at high tide on a calm night. It blocks out eyes and keeps us safe from seeing the dam of green between us and the small pocked road with its own narrow central band of grass and moss. Those eyes get everywhere though, especially as I carry them around in clouds attached by tendrils to my hair and shoulders, residual sight organs of childhood's long gone God. Long distances can curl themselves, like small and large intestines, inside quite compact hollows. All the many crooks and nooks in the walls and rooms around us make themselves available for the coiling up of leagues of distance from us to each other and others and the world, or series of points within it. There are cats' cradles and spider sanctuaries of enmeshed distances festooning the ceiling corners of this crumbling farmhouse without a farm, like Flannery O'Connor's Church of Christ without Christ. The distance temporarily concertinas in a moment of shared appreciation of the beloved southern writer whose name could have made of her a Limerick pub circa 94. More could be said about sealing, how it should be a verb, and probably is, closing us in hermetically and dullening the corners. Our words, losing themselves in the plumbing, the depths, the grooves of separate channels, never meet in the middle or any other arbitrarily designated location in space. Let's just say, doorway to a hypothetical world made of words and agreement, the latter a rarer creature than the words, which for this spell can be any, in any order, once the tense is conditional or subjunctive. Disons, à force de, by dint of putting words together in the shared tenses of the probable, the possible, the hypothetical, we made a shared timeline of finely woven, speculative and deferred actions, miles and miles, coils and coils of homespun middles and ends. What you haven't in your hand you can't hold, is a line of my granddad's. All of this maintenance is nothing but that gesture, trying to hold up and hold together what can't be held in your hand or hands or arms. Holding is tiring, especially holding up, and tiring, extending indefinitely in time, is angering. I know there are words to use at times like these to transform the sense of strain and extension into something approaching magic. Words that shape the kaleidoscope and unsettle scarlet and emerald paillette to form a dazzling fractal mirage, a place that time will make for us if we can just keep up the tiring and the holding up. I close my eyes and a river of flame red hair shakes itself out on the inner lid. Clustering in the corners, elongated spiders spin between the glints of jewel bright light. Something feathered is pulsing in the shadows of the concrete case, the one poured out for holding space. Herbal teas and puns are things that can break a day into manageable chunks, like a family-sized chocolate bar. After a morning of hefting broken things and rat-eaten paper into the skip, I sit under the small sycamore tree, sipping elderflower tea and watching clouds furl and fill up. By the time they're ready to rain, I'll be done. The book I'm reading tells me of its own reading of another poet, advising writing people to trust our own obsessions. When the rain stops, I'll go for a walk up the hill towards the folly. The dog will be reluctant on the road, but activated to full ear and tail up glory in the woods. We'll stand under beech and precariously propped pine, with me looking up at the canopy and the buzzards beyond, and her snootling in the mulch. How does that walk? That walks in slightly wonky circles, like those made by a small child learning to trace the letter O. Existential there would have us believe there's a pattern here, and existential there can't be wrong in this case, given that all it takes to make a pattern is someone or some or other verbal structure to believe that they're seeing one. I comply with that dummy pronoun's wishes more often than not. I'm not even a pattern-seeking creature as such. Rather, they seek me out, drawing my eye into their web of connections. I don't make or do mental images. There's no map of my journey through the world imprinting and updating itself in my mind. When I close my eyes, what I see is determined by the splodges and darting tadpoles pulsing on the inner surface of my eyelids. There is always a shape there of some sort, stretching a trace of tendril towards what I'm moving through and have moved through that day. The image is on the surface of the world, and my light tattooed eyelids and I find ourselves walking along and through it, most often in the woods. There are rifts between layers. We suture them through walking. I'm going to read a couple of poems now from the last section. To note, to turn, that there is no self to turn is the trick to be believed in through sleight of hand. To turn around a round, flat earth, paced out on foot of explanations, making themselves less plausible with every word. To turn around a fixed point, the only fixed one, the lodestar glowing night and day on the back of the eye, doing the fixing itself. To fix a point in space to turn around is magical. To limit motion to a series of circumambulations, to wander without lostness, to take note, not make. These lines are there to take, and by that action become part of a series, making itself lost without wandering. To take note of the situation in space and time and happening, which is action over time, to time action and shape it to situation. To situate in the face of all the unknown places on the surface of the world, a life and maybe lives in one fixed spot, forsaking all others. To situate in space, the final frontier and the first, the finest work song and the sorriest, the place where screams go unheard and unheralded. To space events in such a way as to keep days moving, time passing, doings a transpiring. To space out and lift off from the fixed point like a divorcing billionaire, but wander further than the merest threshold before returning. To pace out space, a place in which thinking, singing, and the movements of living can do themselves. Noting will come of nothing, not with ideas but with words. No ideas but in things. These notes make themselves pagefuls of words and things. Trying again in a rugby sense, running for the end line, swerving past no necks at breakneck pace, better failing, gaining nothing, losing way. But ways are made by walking, so don't stay lost for long, except on days of sitting in thought. Noting gains, such as a picture of ice cream sundae cloud heaps, a jay feather from the woods, a dried saddle grown high in the sycamore, stacking utterly interchangeable brown paper-covered notebooks of reading thoughts and poem starts, moving them utterly unsequentially, folding page corners, marking moments to come back to, slipping letters that are 20 years too late and 30 years too early to reread between blank pages, needing to pause. As pacing happens in the garden, so paging happens and must follow its own movement or fall back to blank. Pawing gravel while waiting takes place and electric charges build and fizz to find the outlet buried in the driveway. Graveling, as in spitting rock out in functional small chunks, as in reducing mass and heft and shadow to the manageable and moderately useful. Depending, hanging on a wheelbarrow upended in the grass, to keep residual clippings from turning to slime and slurry in the rain. Chickening out of thinking. Thought is not a place to get lost in. Ideas, things, words in some binary combination of yes and not, no idea. To turn. To season things seen with the salt of thought, at the risk of rendering the earth ungiving. To summer anywhere but here is where summering happens, in the rustle of the trees, their liquid shade, and weeds making clumped tufts of the rubble. To turn away from the watching eyes, to find a way to turn that doesn't end up back at the point the movement started from. To turn back, if that's the turning that needs doing, to plunge into the heart of the ripple so its motion can begin again. To back away from watchers, to remain unread, unmapped, unowned. To take off from this spot and leave its cloud of eyes behind. To mutter instructions to accompany the movement, to sound out the cycle of motion and rest. To pace a route that isn't made for tracing the eyes that turn it into shapes to read or reading wrong. To make space by gradually increasing the radius of the ripple. To ripple out, to space out, coming loose for short bursts of moments from the clutch of earth, stone, water, to outmaneuver, to work with hands out in the air and to move with this working through the air, among the earth and stone and water, to outfox the farmyard watchers, to shrug off their mystifying cloak of overlaying words. Turning, finding ways through the pebbles and make way to the water without giving way, flowing along with the water and its living song as far as the body can, feeling surface tension crack into bubble over skin, skin tense surface, skimming the roughed up water top with thrilled fingers, singing, sharing space and sound, babble and blatter with the birds in the water, drawing a curtain of sound around a sparkling space to keep eyes out.